Shall we saddle him up? I've always loved horse racing, and I mean, it's quite some time back. I went overseas in 1980, and before I went overseas, my brother was always keen in horses. He had horses with legendary trainers, Tommy Smith, Angus Armanasco, Neville Begg, and that goes back quite a ways. And then I spent, nearly 14 years overseas in Europe, where I became a European tour manager. And during the off season, I would go to all the racetracks in England with my brother. And I went to all of them. I went to the Epsom Derby a few times, Royal Ascot a number of times. So I loved it. And then when I came back to Australia, I was basically my brother's racing manager. And that was, in a sense, like a liaison. He lived overseas, travelled the world. He was he is a famous art dealer, primitive art primarily. So I was the conduit between the trainers and him. And after a period of 6 months, my wife said to me, "Why don't you have a go at training racehorses?" I said, "Well, what do I know about them?" But one thing I've always done in my life, I'm a voracious reader and I'll have a go at anything. So I read every book I could find on racehorses. I had a ready-made group of horses. My brother had half a dozen horses here in Brisbane, and I had a go. Made a lot of mistakes. Making mistakes is never a bad thing, particularly if you learn from it and don't do it again. And I'm not saying I've not made mistakes since then, but I've learned a lot over the years.
Zoushack's been great. He obviously hasn't been with us too long, but he's had a little break here up at the farm out at Washpool, but he's got quietly accustomed to everything very quickly, and we've all fallen in love with him. They're just lovely old geldings, and hopefully we can get him back in the winning form.
Buying a share in the sport of kings, and I suppose it's called the sport of kings because you need to be a king to afford to run a racehorse. And the concept of micro-ownership makes it affordable for everybody, and you can get the same amount of pleasure and the same enjoyment out of being a micro-shareholder as you can with owning 100%. And particularly nowadays with the level of communication that we as trainers provide you guys who run the show, and you embrace the concept and bring everybody in. It's a wonderful idea. It's a precision operation on what goes on, because every horse, believe it or not, they're all individuals and they all have different needs and different wants, and we have to make sure we tend and care for them as best we can. Oh, the thrill of racing. Gee, if you could bottle that feeling when your horse hits the front and goes over the line first,